Greetings and salutations. Another edition of Wolves Weekly here. Mike here from the Mancave, along with Steve and Ramon from their palatial estates. Apologies to you two gentlemen. We did this last night. Call it a rehearsal, along with our guy B Naughty. Brian, since you haven't gotten hold of me today, I will not be apologizing to you. So, anyways, talk about the Timberwolves last week. Two games. Both of which they lost. First one to Toronto, which, let's be honest, was a stinker, a very bad loss to a 3-12 team. A little bit of friction going on there on the court as well. So a lot of discussion amongst the talking heads, fans, etc., since that occurrence. However, Timberwolves came back on Sunday, played a hell of a game against the defending champions on the road. Had a shot to win the game at the very end. Came up a little bit short, but definitely looked a lot better. And we also saw the emergence of a certain player that we'll discuss during the podcast here. But Steve, I'll turn it over to you. Give us your take on the Wolves last week.
Um, yeah, Toronto game was pretty trash. Just all the way around, the team looked disinterested. First time in a long time that I've seen Ant be kind of disinterested and not put in the effort. Like there's three or four trips up and down on defense where he just kind of stood there, let guys get past him or didn't, rotate. There's a couple of instances against Toronto, and I was just like, they just didn't look in. And at no point in time did I think that Toronto was a better team. It just we didn't look interested. We didn't have the energy. Um, and then the whole Rudy Gobert thing with the not getting the pass, and we need a slow-mo. That's what we need. We need somebody to slap these guys right in the mouth when they come off the court and they get on the bench for pulling crap. Because that's what slow-mo did, right? That was a big thing is early in the season last year is like, oh great. But that's kind of what we need to have happen is we need somebody to do that. So, but then again too, I know they had a players only meeting and they had hopefully they had their come to Jesus moment, and they looked a lot better against Boston. I didn't like the fact that we got down by 19, but then again, too, we locked in, and I think we outscored them by 9 or 10 points in the fourth quarter. We came back. I think it was like 32-23 in the fourth. So I mean, they came back, they locked back in, and realistically, they don't have that typical lull in the third quarter like they did so many times last year, right? We had lulls in the third quarter. Well, we finally looked like ourselves and had a lull in the third quarter against the Celtics.
Yeah.
But you know what? Lot better effort, lot better activity opportunity. Dillingham looked good. I won't chew that up too much, but because we'll talk about him yet. But yeah, I thought the last two games, tale of two seasons almost. One very indicative of this year, and one very indicative of last season. So I don't know, Ramon. What was your thoughts on the last two games?
Well, thankfully, for my sake, for my stress, for my heart rate, I missed the Toronto game. I was out playing basketball, getting crossed up, otherwise embarrassed on the court as always. But it was a welcome distraction, especially when I found out what happened on the court to the Timberwolves, because based on everything I heard, it was kind of the problems we've been discussing for all season. Complacency, lack of focus, not taking a perceived lesser opponent very seriously. And then there was the drama that was played nonstop online on social media. The play in which, as you mentioned, Steve, Randall, and Rudy Gobert had a bit of a spat. Anthony Edwards got involved. Just a quick summary. Rudy had great position down low. I think there was about 4 or 5 minutes left in the game. Smaller guy on him. Randall didn't throw him the pass. And instead of cleansing and getting out of the lane quick enough, he nonchalantly got out of the lane, got called for 3 seconds. And then I think he may have committed a kind of not a ticky tack foul, but a frustration foul right on the next play. Anthony
Sounds
Edwards,
like a hip check.
yeah, Anthony Edwards got in his face. And so it looks like there's some friction going on with this team. Sounds like, as you mentioned, they had a team or a players only meeting, and it appeared, at least against Boston, that something took hold because, well, actually, it's hard to say because they seem to show up with the requisite effort it takes to win in the NBA against the top level teams. And as we know, Boston won the championship last year. They brought pretty much, I think, all of their players back, and they look and feel like champions. They look like they're even better than they were last year. And but the Wolves came out and brought the fire, brought the focus. And yes, they did drop down by 19 points at one point, but they kept fighting. They still have connectivity issues defensively, especially with all the switching that the Boston offense causes. But despite Jaylen Brown coming out and hitting 5 3-pointers and just like it felt like in like 30 seconds, I know it was a couple of minutes, but he just was I mean, I think he's shooting like sub 30% from three, and he was hitting everything. Jason Tatum went off. Derek White is wow, what a player on both ends. Defensively, he can hit shots, he can get to the rim. They're just so stacked, and they're role players. If they're open, they hit their shots. But I was happy to see Rudy play as hard as he did, especially after kind of the stink that came from the Toronto game. He was going all out. I think he had a 20 rebound performance, and he was all over the place. He really set the tone early. And just again, not the focus, but the connectivity, which I think is to be expected considering they've added two new players, one new starter to their top eight rotation. That's understandable, but they need to try that hard all the time, and they wouldn't be losing games like they are against to Toronto and what have you. So I was encouraged to see the effort they put forth after putting up such a stinker. And I know we don't like moral victories, but I still feel like that gave me a little bit of hope to see. Mike?
Yeah, happy about the performance. We'll see if it translates. I know they have a game tonight, NBA Cup, which we're all big fans of. But my biggest concern outside of the fact that they look good Sunday is they're 8-8. They're 16 games into the season, which is essentially 20% of their season. So they don't have a lot of wiggle room to get this right. However, I think the good thing is some of the teams in front of them, like Houston Rockets, who they play tonight, I don't see I think are they 14-6, something around there,
12, 12-6.
12-6. I don't see that sustaining. You got to remember they got Dylan Brooks on their team. Golden State's gotten off to a much better start than I anticipated. Is that sustainable? I mean, let's be honest. Steph and Draymond, they're up there in age. I mean, granted, they got slow-mo holding down the fort there, like we could use to Steve's point, but they definitely want to close some distance on these teams. I know they're sitting in playoff position right now or play-in position, but Dallas is going to get better. In fact, they've been better lately. Sacramento's still a threat. Ja Morant's been out. So, I mean, you really need to get on a nice roll here. And I think they got a perfect opportunity this week with the 3 games they have at home here during this week. But we'll talk about the 3 games in a little bit. But I wanted to touch on something that we all seen on Sunday, and that was the emergence of Rob Dillingham. He started to get a little bit more minutes, meaningful minutes the last couple of weeks, but he really had his coming out party against the defending champions on Sunday, going for 14 points. Had just this fierce look in his eyes like he wanted to mess somebody up. And I know there were some defensive lapses or some switching issues that we saw on there, but I mean, he looks the part. He was not intimidated by the moment. And I'm looking forward to him getting more minutes. I mean, Conley's been a little dinged up. He hasn't had a great season to date. I know they're not playing him on back-to-back, so my assumption is he won't play tomorrow. They started Dante DiVincenzo on Sunday at the point rather than Nikhil, who they have been when Conley's been sitting out. So I'm anxious to see tomorrow night, if they sit Conley, are they going to consider starting Dillingham? So looking forward to what his future holds. But man, I was impressed with him Sunday, and I'm looking forward to the future with him. Steve, what are your thoughts on Rob Dillingham?
Yeah, I thought he looked really good. I think, I think we're seeing him mature. I think, his eyes were a little wide, bright lights were a little bright for him coming into the NBA. But I think Sunday, really we saw him his step forward, and I think it was a big step forward for him in that he started feeling his abilities. He started feeling, good with his instincts, what he was trying to do, what he likes to do. He had a couple of good catch and shoot threes. Um, you know, I was doing some reading, and one of the things I think is apparent by looking at him is he's one of the few guys on our team that can just blow past people, that can just mow down the lane and really get in there. Ant's got that explosive, quick twitch to get in there, to really break people down. Nah does okay with it, but he's just not the finisher that Dillingham and Ant are, right? And so I think having that combination of where you can't allow defenses to rest, like if you've got them playing opposites, right? You got Ant and uh, Dillingham playing either opposite shifts, or you've got Dillingham now at the point running, breaking down the defense, and you allow Ant just to spot catch up, catch and shoot. That's a dangerous combination. So I think
Yeah.
I think that Dillingham looked really good. He's looking a lot more confident on offense, trusting himself, trusting his instincts, making good reads. Defense, yeah, there's some mistakes there, but I'll take it. If that kid's going to come off the bench and he pops 14 and gives up two because he missed a switch, I'll take it. It's a plus 12, right? So, I mean, I'm more than happy to take some of his mental lapses now, because the big thing for me, he cares. You can tell the focus is there, the energy there, the intention is there. He wants to be good. He wants to be great. Some of these other players, you watch them. I mean, you watch some of these guys just, they're not getting back on defense. They're walking. You're like, hi, what are you doing, man? You're out of pro basketball. What is going on? Dillingham's out there working his butt off, and I certainly appreciate that. So I would be happy, even if we lost. It's like kind of early Cat and Ant days when they were playing their butts off. We didn't have the pieces around them, so we didn't always win, but it was fun to watch them because they tried and they were always giving 100%. I'll take that any day over people deciding to walk and not get back on defense. But I'll get off my soapbox. Ramon, what is your thoughts on Dilly Dilly?
Well, when you first see him on the court, it really is apparent how young he is. He's 19 years old. He doesn't turn 20 until January. He's, let's be honest, he's not very tall. He's slightly built, and and if you look at his face, he looks very, very young. But now after what, 15, 16 games, and after having seen him on the court, and now that he's getting more minutes, I'm just really taken and really impressed by his poise. He does not look like the moment is too big for him. He was in playing against the defending champs and he brought it. He seems to be making generally the right reads as a point guard when finding open people. Granted, the guys aren't always hitting the shots, but he's making the right reads. He doesn't seem bothered by full court pressure when he's picked up early by a defender, and Boston is just stacked full of high level defenders. But all season, when he's gotten his chance, they pressure the ball. He does not seem phased at all. Whereas some of our other guys who have been playing some point, no offense, Nikhil Alexander Walker, but when he gets pressured a little bit, when he's bringing it up, you can tell, even if he successfully gets it up there, you can tell he's uncomfortable. Dillingham does not look uncomfortable at all. And in fact, he seems to be getting more and more comfortable, which is to be expected. But being that he's 19, being that he was a lottery pick, eighth pick overall, most of those players go to bad teams in which they're allowed to make a lot of mistakes. They've got a long runway, they're guaranteed playing time, but he came to a team that made it to the Final Four of the NBA last year, the conference finals, and he's being asked to play a role already, and he looks ready for it. Yes, I know his defense isn't great, and in fact, it might never be great because of some of his short, sorry, no pun intended, shortcomings. He's a little bit small. He's a little bit, he's not that tall. He's not very built, but the effort's there. And I know he's gotten lost a few times on D, but he is fighting for it. You can tell he's trying to do the right thing defensively, and that's half the battle, right? Or maybe more than half the battle is actually way more than half the battle is trying hard and fighting, and he's doing all of that. And so I'm really impressed. And then another thing too, I mean, his shot looks so good from deep. I think he's shooting like 57%. His handles are, I've already kind of touched on them, look really, really smooth. And it feels like as he's getting more and more comfortable, he's looking actually quicker. So I don't think he's thinking as much and he's just going and his speed, quickness, handles are really starting to show and they really popped in the last game. And just one other thing I want to say, he's really not turning the ball over a whole lot. Most rookies, most high usage players, they do turn it over a lot. And he hasn't been. I think he's got one turnover over the last 2 games in which he's gotten double digit minutes and close games too. He's not playing in garbage time. So very, very impressed with Dillingham. And, we've talked about this team having issues with complacency. Steve, you touched on it. I think he might be part of the solution for that because he brings it and he looks like he wants it so badly, not just to play, but he wants to play winning basketball. So credit to Dillingham, and I'm excited to see, his season and his as he grows throughout the season. Mike, what do you think about Dillingham?
Well, I think he looks great. And as far as the defensive shortcomings, which, we've seen so far, I mean, you think about this team the last couple of years, the first year with Rudy was a little clunky, but last year, a lot of it was mentality. And Rudy was the fire that lit that within the team. I mean, I remember Rudy at one point last year when they were playing OKC and Chet was thinking about driving against him or taking a jumper, and he shut him down. And Rudy's out there pumping his fist. So I mean, it was a mentality, and so far this year's team doesn't have it. I mean, think about Cat. Cat always was ridiculed for his defense. I mean, Cat defensively got us to the Western Conference Finals last year with his performance against KD as well as Joker. And ironically, last night I was watching the Nuggets and the Knicks, and the Knicks blew them out. And Joker, had an okay game, but it's just like people underrate Cat's defense. I mean, we were able to see it firsthand last year. So my hope is that what happened last Thursday lights a fire under Rudy's ass and he gets on him defensively, on Randall and some of the guys that are maybe dragging ass on defense. But back to Dillingham, I think to your guys' point, he's putting out the effort. It's not a lack of hustle. He's going to improve defensively as he develops into his NBA body. Unless he hits some growth spurt, which isn't that out of the ordinary for somebody his age. I
Yeah.
mean, he's going to have some physical limitations, but I love the effort. I love just he's fun to watch. That floater is very underrated as well.
Yeah.
So no, I'm looking forward to the future with him, and I think Mike Conley, I believe he's 37. I think we have him signed through this season and next season on a very team friendly deal. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point Dillingham cracks the starting lineup. And I mean, some of that might be dependent upon Conley's health, some of the rotations, etc. I don't know if it's too early to start thinking about that, but I want to see Dillingham get more meaningful minutes. And like I said, if it's a back-to-back, they play Houston tonight and Sacramento tomorrow. Maybe I don't know if they'll start Nikhil, Dante, or maybe they'll go Dillingham tomorrow night. So I'm very curious to see what happens there. But I'm excited for his future.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
And I got scoffed at for this when discussing this with a friend. So maybe you guys will have the same reaction. But does he remind you ever at all of Kemba Walker? Do you see it at all? Just like smaller guy, but has crazy handles, can shoot it, can get to all his spots, has a really nice floater game. That's
Yeah,
like that's who I see sometimes.
I know, and I didn't watch Walker as much. It was probably during my lull in watching the NBA because the Timberwolves absolutely sucked. But uh, I know there's been comparisons to Jamal Crawford. So I mean, I see a little bit of that, and I was able to obviously watch Jamal because he did play when the Timberwolves actually started to turn the franchise around a little bit a few years back. But yeah, I guess I'll have to look and see as a little more familiarity with some of the comparisons, but excited about his future for sure.
Yeah.
See
All right.
Kemba, and I also see a little SGA too.
Wow.
With how SGA plays. If you think about it, they're both slider guys, they're both smaller builds. But SGA has got those quick, crazy handles. He gets in, he's super fast. He gets in and out, and he's lightning, And then because of his, SGA is a little bit more mature in his game. So he'll come in and start breaking it down, and then boom, he pops up and hits that mid range, and there's not much you can do about it. That's why SGA goes off for 30. So, I mean, you could see Dillingham. He's got the finishing, he's got the power, the speed, and the blow past people. He adds in some of that stop and pop stuff that SGA can do. You're looking at a lethal combination. So I think I see that as well. But so I see the Kemba reference, and I also see SGA because he's got that same kind of quick twitch ability that those guys have.
Man, you said stop and pop. I started having Terrell Brandon flashbacks, aka nightmares. So stop it. You guys remember good old stop and pop? But,
Oh
Good
yeah,
old stop and pop.
but
good player, good
yeah,
player.
yeah, no,
He was
great,
good.
great guy too. I remember he was very,
Yeah.
very much like Mike Conley is today off the court. So, um, with that, obviously NBA Cup taking place tonight. Right in front of me, I got Washington and Chicago playing. I'm not sure that either of those teams are going anywhere this year, but just something on until the real games start here, including the Timberwolves here shortly. But just we alluded to it a little bit about the 3 games here this week that they play. Obviously, 2 NBA Cup games tonight versus Houston, and then Friday against the Clippers, as well as a uh, game against Sacramento tomorrow night mixed in. So just wondering what you guys are looking for out of the Wolves this week. Hopefully coming off the Boston performance, see if that translates or carries over to the next 3 games, which are all winnable games. So, Steve, what are you looking for this week? I mean, NBA Cup aside, because it'd be great if they advanced. I know last year they went 3-1 and they didn't advance, and I think you can do well in the NBA Cup and still not uh, uh, get in there. I think they'd have to make up a big point differential in
Yeah.
order
Yeah.
to proceed. So I mean, it'd be in a perfect world, they'll thump Houston tonight and make up for, because I think their point differential is pretty lopsided right now because of
It's like
that.
12 or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Rockets, we're not sure if this is real or if this is, first of the year fool's gold or what we got going on. Clippers, you got Amir Coffee, right? He's a try hard, and they're doing okay. The Kings, I think we have to beat the Kings. So my feeling is they need to win 2 out of 3 of these next games. I don't expect them necessarily to sweep, but 2 out of 3. I expect what I really want to see is the energy and the effort. It's one thing. It's one thing if we lose, but the other team's just draining shots. It's like, all right, the defense is there. We're trying. It's just there's a better team tonight. That I get that. That's fine. But I think I'd like to see them hold all 3 teams to under 110 points. We're not back to the defensive level we were last year, where our standard was pretty much holding people under 100. But we held Boston to 107, and Boston hit the fastest to 300 made 3-pointers in NBA history. So they can shoot the lights out. And Jaylen Brown, like you said, they were shooting like crazy. We held them to 107. I think that if we can hold Boston to 107, then we need to be able to hold these other teams under 110. So that's my kind of expectation. I think they need to beat the Kings, and then one of the other 2, either the Rockets or the Clippers, beat one of the 2 of those. So 2 out of 3. I want to see the energy, the effort, and hold these teams under 110. That's kind of my expectation. If they don't, then I think it's definitely indicative of a bigger problem, because we already had our players only meeting, like in baseball and everything else, right? You already had one players only meeting. After that, people, messages got to be sent with either playing time or position or something. So 2 out of 3, less than 110 points, and then we got to see the energy. I don't know, those are my expectations. Ramon, maybe you got a little more positive spin than I do, but that's kind of my feeling.
I mean, I'm going to echo some of what you said. It's really all about the effort. Are they going to come in? Are they going to be focused? Are they going to be fighting? I'm very surprised, to be honest, I was very surprised when I saw that Houston is 12-6. I knew they were playing well, but I didn't realize they were 12-6 well. And the Clippers, who had a lot of change in their offseason, the usual injury to Kawhi Leonard, unavailable, but they're 11-7. That's a surprise too.
Yeah.
The Kings, 8-9, but they're a dangerous team. I mean, the Wolves have already played them twice, and every game was incredibly entertaining, but the Wolves had to scrape by to win. So I just want to see focus. I want to see fight. I don't want to see any complacency, but I also really want to see Ant, Randall, and others attacking the rim, especially against Houston, especially against Sacramento, because neither team really has a shot blocker patrolling the middle. And it's my understanding that the Wolves do well when they're playing against teams that don't have a high level shot blocker. I mean, that Portland, they have that rookie Klingon, and that really seemed to kind of stifle them in a lot of ways. So I really want to see the Wolves offense in attack mode. I want to see effort defensively. And, again, I don't want to see them complacent against a team like the Kings because they have beaten them twice. Their
Yeah.
record isn't that great, but it's all about effort. It's all about fight. But if they were to go 2-1, which I think is very possible, very likely even, or maybe 3-0, you could really change the narrative and kind of wipe away some of the, I don't want to call it a stench right now because they're still trying to work things out. But like, let's be honest, the vibes aren't that positive right now. But it's a long season, and it's the NBA. You can turn a narrative around very quickly. So if you're to go 2-1, 3-0, which is very possible, I think, you could really make things feel and get things in the right direction. And I think it's very possible. And all three teams are Western Conference teams. So these are teams that they may in fact be fighting for playoff position with at some point or later on in the season. So these games matter and they can make up some ground in just a few days. So I look forward to seeing some concerted effort, but we shall see. Mike,
We shall, and I know tomorrow night you shall see in person. So hopefully,
I shall.
get a report from you. So you got my number. At the very least, we'll get some clips or some highlights on the Facebook page, like we have with the intros for some of the games you've already attended. So much appreciated there, Ramon. Uh, and with that, to your guys' points, I'd take 2-1. I'm hoping for 3-0. I'm hoping they can really get it turned around, win some. All three are very winnable games, but they're all playoff contending teams as of right now. Whether that holds true throughout the season, we'll see. I still the Clippers are I'm very surprised at how they're doing, as well as Houston. I don't expect Houston to sustain that, to be honest with you, but stranger things have happened. So, but it'd be nice for them to catch a nice run of wins just to wipe off some of the stench of the Portland games, the Toronto games they should have won, and games they might mean something at the end of the season because the West is loaded. I mean, realistically, who's not a playoff contender? Maybe Portland, and they beat us twice. There's a lot of teams still in this thing, so hopefully they come out with a good week. We'll see here. I know when we get done with the programming here tonight, we will all be tuning in to see how they do against Houston. So with that, this concludes another Wolves Weekly from Mancave Sports. Please like, subscribe, put comments in if you think we're, hitting the nail on the head, if you think we suck, if you think Brian's a little too crazy. He's going to give me shit for that, but anyways, appreciate it, gentlemen, and we will get together soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.